Hi y'all, it's Kimberly here. Thank you for coming to my channel. I am upset with myself because I did not make my podcast again. I had it all written out, and then by the time, or not written out, I take notes. I don't really read a script, but I kind of not really rehearse, but kind of, well, yeah, I do. I talk out a little bit of the subjects I want to talk about on the podcast. But when I do the podcast, it's just, me rambling or, stuff that's in my head, whatever, and a few notes. But I only had enough information. I was going to do a podcast about golden retrievers, which all the information I did, it was really a short podcast. So by that time, it was getting late, and I was like, I've decided I was going to put together golden retrievers and Labrador retrievers to maybe stretch it out, which really didn't stretch it out much because they're very similar dogs. But anyway, I'm going to do that as soon as I get through with this video. So in case anybody went over there to listen to it because it wasn't posted, I'm sorry. It's just been so busy, and just trying to get all these things in motion. I'm trying to get, I've never done social media. I was horrible at Facebook when I first got my first Facebook. This was like about 10 years ago, and it was so awful. I fought with everybody, and I was just I didn't understand the etiquette of Facebook, and I didn't understand the rules and everything, and it was just awful. So I shut that one down, and I didn't know how to work it very well, the functions of it, and I kept getting a lot of people kept putting stuff on my page that I didn't want, and I just didn't know how to do it very well. So I shut that down, and I don't really do Facebook anymore. I only do it for the marketplace. Occasionally I might post one little thing on my Facebook once every 6 months, and that's it. But I'm trying these other social media. I am doing the TikTok now, which is going to be very rare and random when I do it. I would like to try to start. I do have an Instagram, but I really haven't posted anything on it. And I forgot about my Medium. When they stole my manuscript, I just, that set me back years. When you write a book and then somebody steals it, it just, they took it. I did find a rough draft copy of it, but I haven't even touched it, and I don't think I will for a long time. Maybe after the summer, maybe if I have more time then, I might start doing something with it, but just put that out of your mind. Maybe at the end of summer, maybe I'll post a little excerpt if I get some of it kind of rewritten. But I was going to do a part of my Bad Bosses series that I did. I haven't done one for a long time because of all the stuff that happened with the Capitol riots and all this, the election and all that. So I'm going to squeeze in another Bad Bosses video. And in Texas, we have pecans. You can't have a car wreck without hitting a pecan tree or something like that. They're everywhere. And they're one of my favorite trees because they're really big. They grow big. They have a lot of shade. They grow really tall, and they have a lot of leaves on it. Plus you get the pecans. You make pecan pie, my favorite pecan pie, and I love chocolate pecan pie especially. But I worked in a pecan shelling place where people with pecans, they grow them and they collect them out of their yard when it falls out of the tree, or they knock them out of the tree, and they get bags that are about so big. Pretty big. I don't know how big that is, like bigger than my head. And some people bring in 10 or 20 bags they may have a few trees in their yard, and they collect as many as they can, and it's really hard to shell them by hand. It takes forever, and you got to pick out that, it's called pith, I think. I want to say pith. I don't know, that may be wrong. I don't remember. I know pith I think that's on an orange, but that inner stuff that's in a pecan, it's really bitter. It tastes horrible. It's that real soft stuff that it's kind of like a cushion. on the inside of pecan, and it tastes awful. And so that has to be, completely, when they crack them, they put them through these machines that crack them, and then they came out on a conveyor belt, and we have to pick out the bits of shell and all that little, it's like a corky kind of stuff. Feels real spongy, like a shock absorber or whatever, I don't know. And we pick all that out, and the pecan pieces come down the conveyor belt, and the pecans fall into a bucket at the end, but we have to pick out all the little shell pieces. They take out most of the big ones, the machine does, but there's always little pieces left behind, and sometimes they'll run it kind of fast, but you have like 3 or 4 people on each line, or depending on how big, the company is. You got to pick it out, and then you got a little bucket where you throw your trash in, and then they take the meat of the pecan meat, they weigh it, and then they charge the customer a certain amount for shelling it. And, I really don't know how much it is. I don't remember, like $5 a bag or something. I don't remember how much it is, but, it's real. I mean, there's these shelling places all around here and in a lot of parts of Texas. And the one I picked to work at, well, the reason I picked that one is because my niece worked there, and she kind of helped me get the job. And then my sister ended up working there, and my sister's daughter, my other niece. So I had 2 nieces and my sister and me. We're all related. We ended up working there, and then there was a few other people that were related. There was a husband and wife that were kind of like, I think he was not really a manager, but he kind of worked the back end, and he would get the huge buckets of like the 55-gallon drums of the pecan shells. They sell it for, I think, like, not really fertilizer, I don't know, some kind of mulch or something, I don't remember. And they're really heavy, and he would deal with all that, and he would put the pecans in and dump them in the machine, the grinders or crackers, I don't know what they're called, where they crack the pecan shells. And his wife worked kind of in the front end, and she was kind of like the manager, I guess, assistant manager, and then there was the owner. And the owner was always drunk. I've worked at a lot of places where people drink, but he was the owner, and you could smell it on him, and he drank liquor. And you could smell it. He was older guy, probably in his 60s, I guess, close enough to 70s. And he was kind of oblivious kind of to what kind of was going on. And then we had this lady, the lady at the front end, I'm going to call her Jane. My sister went to school with her. She didn't know her very well, but this lady was something else. And then there was a couple of, or more than a couple, several other employees that would help us picking out the parts, working on the line. One of them had IBS. He constantly was in the bathroom. And then another lady had like a kidney issue, so she was constantly in the bathroom. They were constantly, and a lot of us were on the line, constantly working. And I didn't have any issue with that. I just, I think the bosses weren't really paying attention to it, so they would look around like they're constantly getting up. And then there was a couple of other people that would kind of get up back and forth, getting drinks or coffee or whatever. And this lady, Jane, was one of the worst people I've ever worked with. One day, the guy with the IBS problem, he was talking a lot, and he liked to talk a lot. And he missed, he wasn't paying attention. He wasn't doing a good job. And I'll never forget this. She got right up in his face. He was sitting down on the line, and she got right up in his face, just right there, and slammed her fist down and started screaming at the top of her lungs. I mean, I can't remember the words she said. It was just the action that she did it, because I was directly across from him, and it jolted me. And I was like within 2 feet of her face. She stuck her face like probably within about 7 or 8 inches from his face, and was screaming bloody murder at the top of her lungs, and her face was just almost purple. And she was yelling at him about, "You're talking all the time, and just, you're not working," and I don't know, just saying, just screaming. And she could have told him, "Hey, listen to me." And she did that several times, and then she kind of went off her rocker, screaming one day over in the corner where she worked on this other part, where she would weigh the bags out and, I don't know, put tags on or whatever for the customer. And she also worked the register. There were two older ladies that came in to pick up their pecans, and she was over in the corner behind, it was kind of open where they could see us working. And there's the little cubby hole over there where she was at. And she started flipping out, screaming that just random stuff about how all this playing around and y'all are not working, and screaming, and just, I can't even remember all the stuff that she just, all the criticisms that she had over all the employees. And she kind of grouped everybody together. And there were some employees that would go outside at lunchtime. They would come back not in a state to work because they would smoke something other than tobacco or normal cigarettes. And at one point, one of the employees was sitting next to me, and she was so out of it, and she was just, literally her mouth was hanging open, and she was on the line, and she was not even picking anything up, and I was trying to pick everything up, and I was so mad, I was so upset. And she walked by, and she goes, "What's wrong? What's going on?" This Jane lady. And I said, "She's high. She can't do nothing. She can't even function." And she just looked at her like that. And she liked this girl who really didn't work very much. She was constantly talking and wandering around. And she didn't want to say anything to her. She did not want to yell at her, but she would yell at all the other employees. And my sister, there was a straw that broke the camel's back at that point. And she started yelling, at this Jane that she went to school with. They're the same age, and I think they're in the same grade even. They weren't really friends, but they kind of knew each other. And my sister started, pointing out everything. You don't pay attention. You every back turn, you're not even paying attention. But yeah, one little thing you start screaming and yelling at. You don't see the whole thing, and you pick on certain people. And you don't even say anything to her. You never say anything to her. She can get away with everything. And she had made statements before. She was talking about her own daughter, this Jane girl, about, "Oh, I'm such a pushover, and my daughter, she kind of does something wrong, and I just kind of, oh well, and I just don't want to get mad at her." And so she kind of made a statement like that about this other girl, like, "Oh, I just can't get mad at you." I'm not going to say her name, but this young girl. And so it was kind of, she just outright admitted it one day. This is before, this incident happened. And I was like, and I told my sister, she outright admitted it, and we went through so many days of that, just on and on and on. And her husband worked there in the back, and he would be embarrassed. You could tell he was embarrassed. And this lady had had a stroke and was not in good health, and she would just, I've never seen somebody scream so loud before in my life. To the point where her face was almost purple. And I kept expecting she's going to have a stroke right here. And it was just constant screaming and yelling. And at one point, she yelled at the owner, bought Cokes for us. We could get a Coke on our break, and a canned Coke. And I would get one every day on break. And one day she started screaming and yelling, "And the Cokes! Y'all are just drinking all the Cokes," or just went off on us. And so I told her, "You can keep your god blanking Cokes to yourself. I don't want them." And I never drank another Coke. And when I yelled it at her, and she turned away, she didn't say anything to me. And then, it was I think it was one final day of her flipping out and screaming and yelling. And I told my sister, "I can't do this. I'm not." I just finished, and I think my sister had to leave early. She was working 2 jobs, and I think I went home with her. We were in the same car, and I just never came back. And then the same thing happened to my sister at one point. It's another blow up, and my sister just quit. So that's probably one of the worst places I've worked at in a long time. And because of that one person, I didn't like that the owner would be drunk because he was just not out of it. You know, he was, I mean, not there. He was just out of it and not paying attention. And I hated working with somebody like that, screaming and yelling and just ridiculous stuff, you know. That's nobody wants to work in a place like that. Okay, I'll post something either tomorrow or the next day. Thank you all.